Welcome to HistoryFlix English. In this explainer, we're going to explore how a single, honestly kind of ordinary-looking object created a massive historical butterfly effect that completely modernized the world we live in. I mean, we interact with it literally every single day, right? We tear it up, we toss it away, we totally take it for granted. But as you'll see, we are looking at the absolute pulse of civilization itself: paper. So what if books, paper money, and recorded history just didn't exist? Seriously, I want you to imagine a reality where trying to preserve every great idea, every mind-blowing scientific discovery, or even just basic historical data was almost impossibly hard and crazy expensive. Imagine trying to run a massive empire or pass down complex medical knowledge when you're relying mostly on word of mouth or on materials that just degrade super fast. Without a simple, scalable way to actually record information, human progress was basically slapped with a strict speed limit.
Section 1. A world without paper, the heavy burden of ancient knowledge. Okay, let's dive into this. Because to really appreciate the hyper-connected, information-stuffed world we live in right now, we've got to understand the harsh, physical realities of recording information thousands of years ago, way before paper was even a blip on the radar.
Back then, our ancestors were working with stone. They had to etch into wet clay tablets, carve onto heavy bamboo slips, or painstakingly paint on silk and animal skins. I mean, think about the crushing weight and the insane cost of these ancient materials. Just to put that into perspective for you, producing just one single large book out of animal parchment could take the skins of over 200 sheep. And a library of clay tablets? That required massively reinforced foundations just to keep the building from literally collapsing under its own weight. It was a nightmare. The world desperately needed a dream material, something lightweight, smooth, and most importantly, affordable. Humanity needed a practical way out from under this incredibly heavy physical burden of knowledge.
Section 2. The Han Dynasty Breakthrough, an innovation in ancient China. So to find the solution to this massive global bottleneck, we actually need to move our timeline forward about 2,000 years to ancient China, where a truly monumental breakthrough finally happens.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this massive leap in human history wasn't the work of some giant team of engineers or sprawling government initiative. It actually traces back to just one single court official. Back in the Han Dynasty, a guy named Cai Lun, who honestly was probably just sick and tired of the absolute bureaucratic nightmare of hauling around heavy bamboo records every single day, took a crude, existing practice and completely revolutionized the whole papermaking process. He became a history-changing technological pioneer, fundamentally altering how our entire species communicates.
The year was 105 AD, and it's vital to highlight this specific year because it pinpoints exactly when this monumental breakthrough successfully occurred and was officially reported to the emperor. This was it, the exact turning point where the ancient world started its long, steady transition into a completely new era of recorded history, an era that wasn't bogged down by the physical weight of stone or the crazy expense of silk.
Let's walk through the actual physical hands-on steps of Cai Lun's brilliant process. Step 1. He mixed tree bark, hemp, old fishing nets, and worn-out cloth with water, just beating it down until it turned into a messy, soft pulp. Step 2. He spread this smelly, watery mixture into a super thin, even layer over a screen. Step 3. He pressed out the excess water. And Step 4. He simply left it out in the sun to dry. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates true hands-on innovation. He literally took everyday waste and natural plant fibers and performed this kind of historical alchemy, transforming absolute trash into the lightweight, affordable writing medium the whole world had been waiting for.
And the impact? It was immediate and staggering. This new material quickly transformed Chinese society from the top down. Suddenly, government records were incredibly easy to store, organize, and ship across vast provinces. Scholars were no longer lugging around heavy bamboo, which meant they could write and share way more books. And because paper was so much cheaper to make, education suddenly became far more accessible to a wider range of people, not just the ultra-wealthy elite. Paper was basically an immediate, massive upgrade to their entire system of governance, art, and learning.
Section 3. Journey along the Silk Road. Paper goes global. But of course, an invention this powerful and this incredibly useful couldn't just stay a local secret forever. It was absolutely destined to break borders and travel across the entire globe.
If we trace this geographic spread, it reveals an incredible historical journey. Starting out in 105 AD in Han Dynasty China, the knowledge of papermaking steadily moved right alongside merchants trading spices and gold on the famous Silk Road. Over the subsequent decades, the technology reached Central Asia. Then, moving into the following centuries, paper completely transformed the Middle East, actually helping kick off a golden age of Islamic scholarship and mathematics. And finally, centuries later, the secret made its way into Europe. Everywhere this simple, flexible material went, it drove major world-altering advances in science, literature, trade, and global education.
Section 4. The Printing Press Revolution, a multiplier effect on human progress. Now, the story of paper certainly doesn't stop with its global spread. We have to see what happens when this perfect material meets another completely groundbreaking machine.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because centuries later in Europe, Johannes Gutenberg invented his mechanical, movable type printing press. Now, the machine itself was an absolute stroke of genius, no doubt about it, but it desperately needed the right medium to actually function at scale. I mean, printing on expensive animal parchment totally defeated the purpose of mass production. But Gutenberg's printing press plus affordable paper, that sparked a revolution that reached millions. Combining this flat, smooth, inexpensive material with mechanization created an absolute explosion of information, the likes of which humanity had literally never seen before.
This dynamic pairing set off a massive global chain reaction. Think about it. Before the press and paper, a monk might spend an entire year painstakingly copying just one single text. Now, books were being produced at unprecedented, blinding speeds. Ideas started spreading like wildfire across entire continents, completely bypassing traditional gatekeepers of knowledge. Historians pretty much universally agree that this massive influx of affordable books played a major role in fueling the Renaissance, and it absolutely helped spark the scientific revolution, since scientists could finally share complex data across borders. Paper acted as the fundamental fuel for humanity's greatest historical eras.
Section 5. Paper's Enduring Legacy, the Modern World. All right, this brings our explainer right into the present day. We need to connect all this rich, ancient history directly to your everyday life right now.
Because look, even though we live in a world heavily dominated by digital technology, smartphones, and the cloud, we still fundamentally rely on paper. It is the very foundation of our books, our schools, and our offices. It's totally essential for our art and our legal documents. And just think about global commerce for a second. Cardboard packaging, which actually is just heavy paper, is the unsung hero of the entire global supply chain. Without it, the modern economy would grind to an absolute halt. So yeah, even today, paper still physically surrounds us everywhere.
This brings up a really great quote. The invention of paper was more than just creating a new material. It changed the way humanity records knowledge, shares ideas, and preserves history. So the crucial point is this. Paper wasn't just a convenient office supply for ancient bureaucrats. It was the ultimate catalyst for civilization itself. It literally gave us our collective memory. We completely take this simple mixture of pulp and water for granted every time we jot down a quick grocery list or rip open a package. But we really have to ask ourselves, without paper, what would our modern world actually look like today? It's one of those questions that reveals just how fragile and deeply interconnected human progress really is.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this explainer, please make sure to subscribe to HistoryFlix English and join us for more amazing stories about the everyday inventions that shaped our world. Until next time, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. If Cai Lun hadn't decided to mix up that tree bark and those old fishing nets together back in 105 AD, how utterly unrecognizable and honestly, how far behind would our modern reality be today? Keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.